Stephen King once said that fiction is the truth inside the lie. Now, I don't really know what that means or what relevance it has to anything. I just thought it would be cool to start this off with a quote from Stephen King. In a video game review, people ultimately wonder whether a game is good or bad. And that's what I do. My name is Yomarz. I'm a writer. Sort of. I've always had a vivid imagination, and writing up a review never came as that big of a challenge. But this game was something else. Something about it made it nigh impossible for me to put words onto the page. Or maybe it was just because I hadn't slept in 3 days. With each passing second, my brain increasingly turned into sludge. My thoughts an incomprehensible mess of nonsensical words and phrases. In fact, I was so dumb that—
Hey, what the hell, man?
Sorry.
Yeah. Not cool. The thing is, I know what I want to talk about, it's just so hard for me to get started. I mean, I'm writing about a game written about a writer. That means I'm writing about a writer's writing about a writer's writing. I don't even know where to begin.
On the paper was something amazing. It was just like something I would have written. But I had not written this. I had never seen this before in my life. But more importantly, a few pages in was a review for Alan Wake.
You know what this means? We need to find the rest of those pages.
For those who don't know, Alan Wake is a psychological thriller action game released by Remedy Entertainment in 2010 for Xbox 360 and later in 2012 for PC. So in the game you play as, well, Alan Wake, a successful author who is currently going through a major case of writer's block, for which he prescribes himself 50 cc's of rest and relaxation in a friendly little Pacific Northwest town. A quaint little locale where everyone is nice, the music is good, and nothing could possibly go wrong. But then everything goes wrong. An evil darkness kidnaps Alan's wife, shadow people emerge from nowhere and begin hunting him with savage determination, and worst of all, the nice little vacation home he already paid for with his hard-earned book revenue disappears. Now it's up to you to rescue your wife from the evil around you, destroy the darkness that threatens the town, and save your vacation from becoming a total disaster. Occasionally I had a hard time following the plot, but don't worry, as it goes on everything starts falling into place.
Do you understand?
No. The game is a loving homage to mystery stories, but has a little bit of a hard-on for things like the show Twin Peaks and the works of authors like Stephen King. And by hard-on, I mean some of the plot points and characters are straight up lifted from them. And this goes especially for Twin Peaks. All they needed was a backwards talking midget, and I might as well have been playing a lost episode of the show.
With every page I gathered, more and more of the puzzle came together. It was a review that I had written, but I had never really written. I talked about the story, I talked about the gameplay, I even made a joke about— wait, no, that's a bit too racist. Now where was I?
The best parts of Alan Wake, by far, are the interactions with the characters, besides this guy, and the story that unveils itself as you play the game. When in the combat areas, the story is mainly told to you by Alan's inner monologue, which can be a bit much at times.
I had to go to the lighthouse. I knew there was something important waiting for me there. I hated to leave Barry behind, but there was no way I'd miss my appointment with the kidnapper. The lights up ahead were a good sign. Maybe I wouldn't have to hike all the way down to the gas station to find a phone.
And these weird pages that you have the option of collecting throughout the game. These are mysterious foretellings of future events from a book that Alan can't quite remember writing.
Nightingale stared through the broken studio window into the dark woods. He turned around, started to walk out, but Maine grabbed his arm. "Young man, you almost shot me."
You can even find manuscript pages about finding manuscript pages. I mean, how cool is that? They're really neat because they give you insight into characters' thoughts and motives that you may not have ever known about otherwise. But they also have a tendency of sometimes spoiling the story. Some moments that would have been cool to see firsthand were kind of spoiled because I decided to read the pages. I was really torn about whether or not to keep reading them afterwards, but I decided to do so because I figured that's what Alan would probably do. When researching the game, I found it interesting that Alan Wake was originally supposed to be open world, and I guess this is still evident due to the large open driving sections that you can still find throughout the game. But what we get here is essentially just a linear third-person shooter. You get a handful of weapon types that you use to fight off bad guys, such as your standard fare revolver, shotgun, and rifle. However, none of these even hold a candle to your most powerful weapon, and that is the flashlight! Yes, the flashlight! Guaranteed to remove at least 80% of the darkness you shine it at, or your money back. Just look at these happy customers who have just used their very own flashlight.
I'm sorry!
With the power of light, you can surely repel the evil around you and save the town from certain destruction. So the shooting mechanics in this game work like this. You shine your flashlight at a bad guy and boost the power of it, because that's a thing you can do. And after this little circle meter disappears, you pop it full of lead, and there you go. For the first few hours of the game, I was really engrossed by this. It was interesting and certainly provided quite a bit of tension. You couldn't just pop off guys as soon as you see them, you needed preparation, timing, and a healthy amount of mashing the dodge button. But the shooting is kind of sluggish, and the amount of bullets you need to kill a guy eventually turns into a science. You look at a group of enemies that suddenly appears in front of you, which happens quite a bit actually, and then go, oh, 2 little guys and a big guy, huh? So that means 3 shots over here, 3 over here, and 6 over here. Monotonous would be the kind way to put it. Eventually I found myself simply running past guys as often as I could, which is a genuine strategy, mind you, as every time you reach the light from a street lamp, you hit a checkpoint and all the guys attacking you suddenly disappear. It kind of removes all the fear and apprehension you might have had when you could just walk into the light and be safe. A lot of the combat in this game honestly feels like padding. It seems like Remedy Studios just realized that their story about a psychologically troubled author somehow didn't have enough action and explosions as they might have thought, so they just threw in some waves of bad guys to pass the time between bits of story. And that kinda sucks because I was really invested in the story, and it was a shame that I felt like I was slogging through filler just to get to the parts I wanted. Well, I guess it's a good thing then that the environments at least help keep things interesting. I mean, there's just so much variety. Like the dark and spooky forest, and the dark and spooky forest, and the dark and spooky... Okay, maybe there's actually not much variety. And I realize that that's what the story calls for, and it would be weird to have a lot of the game set in the daytime, but the uniformity of environments makes it a godsend whenever there's a change of pace.
Al, please tell me we're headed for the nearest "You're now leaving Bright Falls, come back soon" sign.
We're going to the Anderson farm.
I knew you were gonna say something like that!
But overall, I had a good time with Alan Wake. The combat was dragging by the end, but it wasn't so boring that I didn't want to keep playing. And the gameplay isn't bad at all, it's actually really good. It's fun, it's entertaining, but there's just not nearly enough variety to keep me entertained solely on that. The story, though, was great. Sure, it's not Shakespeare or some brilliant work of art. It's the kind of thing that you'd expect to find in your local bookstore's mystery section, and that's perfectly fine. It's a light read, but still fun. No, I won't go into it, but the ending may seem a little lackluster, though there are 2 pieces of DLC that continue the story where the game leaves off. And in the end, it's not a perfect game, but it's got interesting mechanics and is surely a change of pace from your everyday shooters. It's strange and unique, and has a type of story that'll keep you interested from cover to cover. You really don't get that many games quite like Alan Wake.
The trail of manuscripts led me here, back to where it all began. I sat down and stared at the blank page sitting in the machine, but this time, it too stared at me. I knew what it wanted. It wanted me to finish the story, to write an ending. I began to type. Was I insane? Did I write all of this review in the deepest level of my subconscious? Was I even writing this now? Or was it all the product of some demented dream? Or rather a nightmare?
I really should finish my Alan Wake review. Too bad my industrial-sized van blew my pages everywhere.